Hi, it's time for another verb of the day. Today's verb is impersonate. Let's take a look at some of the definitions or ways that we use this verb. The first way you might hear impersonate used is to mean to pretend to be another person, and the motivation for this pretending is in order to entertain someone, right? So someone might be mimicking uh, another person's voice or the way they talk, certain words that they use, maybe gestures that they make with their hands, um, in order kind of to be funny. Many times it's done for laughs, right? To sort of tease and have fun. But a second way you might hear impersonate used is again to mean to pretend to be someone else, but you're doing it in order to deceive someone, which means trick them. I'm going to share with you some example sentences a little later that really focus on that tricking or deceiving sort of meaning. You should know that impersonate is a regular verb. To make the progressive tense, you're going to drop an E and then add ing to form impersonating. The past tense and participle forms of this verb can be made by just adding the letter D, since this verb already ends in an E. Our base verb, impersonate, ends with a T sound. So our past tense ending is going to make an id sound, and we're going to add an extra syllable as we say it. It should sound like this: impersonated, impersonated. Okay. Now, you'll be happy to know no additional meanings through phrasal verbs, so let's focus on that verb tense practice. Today, we're going to practice the present progressive and the simple future. Let's start with the present progressive. You might also hear this called the present continuous. Maybe your other teachers or other textbooks you're using use that terminology. These two things mean the same thing. I like using present progressive because the two P's help me remember I need two parts to make an affirmative sentence. So what I need is to use a present form of be. So that's going to be am, is, or are. And then I need the ing form of the verb. You can see this in my first example sentence. Hackers are impersonating law enforcement. Beware. Okay. I saw a sentence very similar to this as part of a headline, a news story. So this goes to that second meaning of tricking or deceiving someone. So there are people pretending to be law enforcement and telling people they need to pay fines or pay some sort of penalty because they broke the law, right? And this is not real. Again, they're doing it to try and get other people's money. Now, if you want to make a negative present progressive sentence, we can do that by using the structure, a present form of be, then not, then the ing form of the verb. An example here: he isn't impersonating the president. So here that might be that first definition. Many people do try to impersonate government officials, again, usually done as entertainment. Finally, we can make a yes or no question in the present progressive. To do this, we start with a present form of be, then we have our subject, then the ing form of the verb. Here's another example. Is she impersonating a hospital employee? Okay, this also goes back to that second definition, trying to trick or deceive someone. Unfortunately, I feel like at least once a year, maybe more frequently, I hear a story about that. Someone impersonating a nurse, maybe even a doctor, to try and get access to certain things or even to patients. So, again, they're pretending to be someone else in order to trick or deceive. And I think I forgot to mention, many times we're using the present progressive to talk about an action that is in progress or something that is happening right now. Now let's switch and talk about the simple future. Today, we're going to focus on using will. Um, as you may know, there are three ways we can describe sort of future activities in the simple future, but we're just going to focus on the one today, which is will. This is really common when people make promises or they make an offer to someone else. You might also hear it with a prediction. The nice thing about this structure is that we don't have to pay attention to our subject, right? It's always going to be the same. We're going to use will, and then we're going to use the base verb. So no S, no ED, no ING, nothing on the end of that verb. You can see that in our example. Scammers will impersonate software companies and contact you via phone to sell you warranties. Again, I borrowed this sentence from another newspaper article talking about people who are trying to trick others in order to get their money. So they were making a prediction of what this scam sort of looks like or sounds like. Now let's look at making negative simple future sentences. To do this, our structure is will not and then the base verb. You might hear some people use the contraction form for will not. That's won't. Won't. You can see that in my example here. The comedian won't impersonate his parents' accents. I've seen a few examples of things like this before. Some people say that it can be sort of mean spirited or unkind if we are sort of making fun of the way others talk, particularly when English isn't their first language. This sentence is coming from a particular comedian who said, "I refuse to try and impersonate the accent of my parents." Finally, let's look at making a yes or no question in the simple future. To do this, we're going to start with will, then we're going to have our subject, then the base verb. You can see that here. Will they impersonate famous singers and actors during their comedy act? Okay. So this yes or no question ties back to our first definition. Many people will try to sound like or behave like, perform like another famous person, and sometimes again it's done for laughs. It's done to be entertaining, and that's what it sounds like in this yes or no question. Now, let's spend a couple moments looking at some words that are related to our verb impersonate. And the first word we're going to look at is the noun impersonation. Okay? So, this is simply referring to the act of pretending to be someone else. And that act could be done for the purpose of entertaining other people, or again, it could be for the purpose of tricking, deceiving, or you can see my definition here for fraud. So, intentionally trying to trick someone, usually into giving you money. An example of this noun in a sentence might be, many questions remain in the federal agent impersonation plot. Perhaps you saw this headline in the last couple of weeks. There were two people pretending to be Secret Service agents for the First Lady of the United States. So, again, they were pretending they weren't really. I think they had gotten free apartments, like free rent, maybe free cell phones, and some other things as they continued acting or pretending to be a part of sort of the First Lady's security team. Now, one other word you might hear is, this should be a noun, impersonator. This is a person who pretends to be someone else for entertainment or fraud. So, an example of how you might hear this used, he's been an Elvis impersonator for many years, right? So, he pretends to be Elvis Presley in order to entertain others. Thanks so much for watching today's video. I hope you have a great day.